Greetings. Good morning on this Sunday morning. I am Pastor Carrie West, serving Sunrise Church here in Pueblo West, Colorado. And this morning, every Sunday morning that I am in the pulpit, I try to do this morning brief to give a little background or a little more information about maybe the scriptures that we're going to hear in service, in our worship service, or to expand a little bit about what my sermon's going to be addressing. And so it's just a few minutes for us to kind of prepare to hear and maybe provide a little more foundation for understanding these ancient texts that we engage with on Sunday mornings. So with that said, we are wrapping up our 3-week stewardship series based on John Wesley's The Use of Money sermon that he wrote and preached, 300 plus years ago, 500, 400 years ago. Anyway, long time ago, 1700s. And so his premise in this sermon is that we earn all we can and we save all we can so we can give all we can. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about earning all we can, what it looks like to earn extra cash, to generate income so that we can give. And then last week, we talked about living simply and how we save all that we can in order that we can give all we can. Today, we're going to talk really about the giving part of the give all you can, and using one of Paul's letters to one of the churches that he started, and this is the Church of Corinth. So we're going to hear some reading from 2 Corinthians. It's going to be chapter 8. It's kind of a long passage, but it's all pretty important. Now, probably the background that I'd like to give this morning, because I don't want to go too deep into it during the sermon, but is this idea of kind of what was happening between Paul and the church, and to specifically talk about what it is that Paul was asking the Church of Corinth to do. So we're all pretty familiar with 1 Corinthians, right? That's where we hear the church is the body, and like a human body that have many parts. So it is with the church, and there are many gifts. We hear about what love is, that love is patient and kind. 1 Corinthians really is about encouraging this young church to embrace everyone and to use everyone's gifts and to structure themselves and to remember the faith and be witnesses in the community around them. So really encouragement. And then Paul leaves Corinth after, this letter, comes to them after he has left. And we think that probably, he'd come back and visited, left again, and then he goes into prison. And for whatever reason, there seems to be a little bit of a tiff between Paul and the church. And Paul sends Titus to go to the church, and the church is pretty much, they just are bashing on Paul. They do not agree with him anymore, or they're hurt by him, or maybe because he was in prison, they thought he was fake. I'm not entirely sure. And our texts don't really tell us that. But what we know is that the church really started to look to Titus as their spiritual leader, as the one who's really helping them. And so at some point, Titus helps the Corinthian church to forgive Paul, to remind them that, Paul loves them, just as trying to encourage them when he calls them out for the dumb stuff they were doing, or the wrong theology, the wrong beliefs that they had, that Paul was just doing that so that they would have a good life, so that they could prosper in faith, the faith of Jesus. And so they could look toward eternal life. And so Titus just reminds them, hey, Paul's on your side. He's always loved you. And so the second letter to the Corinthians is kind of Paul reconnecting with the church. And his language softens a little bit, where maybe in First Corinthians letter, there was more admonitions, there was kind of more commands, there was, kind of stern encouragement. And then the second letter is a little bit softer, but is still just reminding the church of who they are, reminding them of the faith that they found when Paul was with them before. He's encouraging them to, not lose zeal or lose excitement in their faith for Jesus or in Jesus. And so that's kind of what we're hearing in this second letter to the Corinthians. And then what we hear today, and from the 8th chapter, is Paul trying to encourage this church with whom he's had kind of a rough relationship with. He's encouraging the church to begin taking back up their offerings. Now, the offering that Paul is talking about with the church of Corinth, and is then kind of comparing the church of Corinth with another church in Macedonia. And but this offering isn't like how we pass the plate on Sunday morning. So we're going to be really clear about this. This isn't about like maintaining the ministry of the particular church of Corinth, but this offering that Paul is referring to is one that an offering that's going to go back to Jerusalem, back to where the other apostles and the elders of the church, the Jews, they are in need. They are trying to spread the good news of Jesus Christ, in the center of Judaism, in the center of where there's a lot of pushback from those who want to stay in the Jewish faith, who are wanting to abide by the law. And so there was a lot of turmoil in Jerusalem at this time. And so the elders and the apostles that were there were in need. They were very poor and having a hard time, even just like finding food or whatever. So the idea was that these traveling missionaries like Titus, like Paul, are gathering money from the new churches in Asia Minor, from Corinth, Ephesus, Macedonia, all over that region, and sending that money back to Jerusalem so that they could be part of building up the church there in Jerusalem and Judea. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on with what we hear in the scriptures today, and we're gonna kind of touch on some of those dynamics of like, I'm not very happy with what's going on, like the church of Corinth not being very happy with Paul and what he was saying, and yet Paul's saying, even though this is how you feel, you started something. And I want you to finish it, which was taking up this offering and getting it to Jerusalem. So that's kind of what we'll be hearing and touching on a little bit today. We're going to touch a little bit on this idea of competition and how Paul uses this, hey, look at the Church of Macedonia, and I think you could do better, and how that kind of gets us motivated to give. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also there's just this wonderful reminder that Paul gives the church of Corinth about how God is the one who provides. And that when we have our eyes and we kind of keep our focus on God, who provides all things, and that we can trust that when we have enough, and we don't have to have more and we don't have to have less. We can just be happy with enough. That enables us to give then with what we have. So that's what we're looking forward to in the service today. Our pledge cards are due today. So if you are watching on Sunday morning and planning to come to church and have not brought your pledge card, today is a great day to do that. And if you want to even just send us an email with your pledge or send it in this week, that is okay too. Just excited to see everyone in worship this morning. It's always such a beautiful thing to gather together. So if you can come and be with us at 10 a.m. in person in our sanctuary, that's great. Otherwise, we will also be live streaming here on Facebook and YouTube. And we look forward to sharing the good news of Jesus Christ with you today. May you go forth with joy. May the rest of your day be the very best of your day. And I hope to see you in church.